Hi, friends.
I'm Zach.
I'm Mitch.
And we are an excellent little podcast.
Presenting you a little movie podcast starring Zach and Mitch.
Wait, we're doing a podcast?
We are doing a podcast, and you don't sound so good.
Yeah, my throat is a little bit a bit weak right now. There was a lot of things kind of going on, and I think my immune system just kind of kicked in and, didn't kick in. So
yeah,
it is what it is. But we are here bringing you a little movie podcast starring Zach and Mitch, and we're coming at you with one of the biggest films of the year, which
Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda Forever. It's Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, the MCU's end of Phase 4, brought to you by Disney and Marvel Studios. And since it is Disney and Marvel, we are Disney cast members, so we do not speak for the brand or the company, and our thoughts are our own.
Yes, the studio, obviously Disney Marvel Studios. Director is Ryan Coogler. Screenplay is also by Ryan Coogler and Joe Robert Cole. And I have to say, when it comes to the directing style, Ryan Coogler, he brought his A game again, I'd say. I feel like this is only his third film, if I'm not mistaken, because Creed was his first, then Black Panther, and then Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Well, he did do Creed 2.
No, he did not.
Oh, he did not?
Nope.
Oh, was that Sly Stallone that did that one? Or
It was somebody else, but it was not Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler couldn't do Creed 2 because he was busy with Black Panther.
Because he was busy with Black Panther.
But yeah, the directing style very much on point with this one, and the script was still solid, I would say.
Yeah.
But I feel it was a little bit too convoluted at times. We will talk about the runtime later, but
Sure.
I just felt the script could have had a little bit slimming down,
Sure.
I think,
Okay.
at the end. But overall, the directing style of Ryan Coogler and the screenplay of both Coogler and Robert Cole on point for this one, in my opinion.
Completely agree with you. You see Coogler's handprint on all of this. You see that this is a very personal story for Ryan Coogler, trying to bring his friend to a very nice, happy conclusion. And it's a very respectful film of Chad's life and death and what he meant not only to the MCU but to the people around him.
Yeah, a quick summary. The people of Wakanda fight to protect their home from intervening world powers as they mourn the death of King T'Challa. And now, my friends, how we split this episode. We will first talk about our non-spoiler section. Zach will give his thoughts. I will give mine. We will talk about the performances and other non-spoilerly things. Then we will talk about our review. We will discuss what we do with our review when we get to that point.
Yep.
Then we will sound an alarm because then you will enter our spoiler section. We will talk about spoilerly things and other related to full thingamajiggers with the MCU and the Phase 4 and whatever happens and things. And then we'll end and go our separate ways until the next review that we have.
Yep.
Okay. So without further ado, Zach, this was your number 6.
My number 6.
Will you please give a very thoughtful first thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. My first thoughts on this one are it's so powerful. It's so wonderful. There's so much wonderful character development that goes on with every character from the top to bottom. Everyone from as small as M'Baku to as large as Shuri, Queen Ramonda, and Namor. And Namor's introduction into the MCU, which was going to be a hard task to do. But I feel like it was a great story. They pulled off Namor well, and we continued to do really great stuff in the MCU, and definitely one of the brighter spots in Phase 4.
Yeah, and this was my number 9. And I would say I feel that was kind of a low mark, I feel.
Okay.
I feel like it probably should have been higher after seeing this film because the film delivered in spades. The cinematography, I feel like, was a lot better in this film than it was in the first one.
Sure.
For reasons I can't really discuss quite yet. The performances were on point, which we all knew. Directing style was on point. We all knew that what's going to happen. But one thing, just the power of the whole entire film, bringing that legacy of the late Chadwick Boseman to this film was just delivered to a T. But speaking of the cast, let's talk about them.
Absolutely. And who better to start with than kind of the heart of the first Black Panther, which is Shuri, played by Letitia Wright. I'm sure Letitia Wright signed up for quite a whirlwind coming into the MCU, but I don't think she ever expected to be hit with this early into her run into the MCU. So she went from a decent sized side character to the star of her own movie in the matter of an instant, and it does not feel like it at all. She carries this film so well. The emotional weight is really on her back, and she carries it like a pro. And it's really interesting to see this very smart, quippy, wonderful character turn into such a broken and remorseful character for exactly what happened. And I don't want to get into spoilers, but
I will talk about it real quick. Just not spoilers. But yeah, I will agree 110%. She delivered also just wonderfully. And I just have to say, for someone so young to now be the face of the Black Panther franchise, hopefully going forward, I can't really think of anybody that could do it any better, in my opinion. But can we also talk about Angela Bassett as Queen Ramonda? Okay. She needs to be looked at for an Oscar for this film, in my opinion. She was so wonderful in this film. Just, you know how you said Shuri was the heart of the last film?
Yep.
Queen Ramonda, Angela Bassett, was literally the heart and the soul of this film, in my opinion, at least. Just so powerful in this film.
100%. And it's always really great to see actors and actresses the caliber of Angela Bassett in the MCU, because in a day and age of where quote unquote artists like to shit on the MCU, it's really great to see people and like Angela Bassett give their all, and you can tell that she did not hold back on this one. She really, there is just this nice gravitas and level of whenever she walks into a room, she steals every scene that she's in, and you feel her presence throughout the entire film, whether she's on screen or not. And she gave such a wonderful performance that it's so special. You definitely have to watch it for her.
Another one that I feel was a very definite scene stealer was Dominique Thorne as Riri Williams. Wow, I mean, I was I don't think she's 20 yet, is she? She's young.
Tell you.
I'm pretty sure
she is definitely on the younger side. It's so great to see Ironheart in the MCU, especially since let's go. we have such a to have someone as prolific as Iron Man and Tony Stark now no longer with us in the MCU. It's really great to see a really wonderful tech genius that's that young, that's young, scrappy, and hungry for everything that she does know. And Dominique Thorne just plays Riri so well. It's the MCU. One of the best things the MCU does is their casting, and they knew exactly how Riri was in the comics, and I feel like Dominique is literally just lifted from the comics. She does a phenomenal job as Ironheart, and I can't wait to see her when she comes back in Iron Wars.
Well, that's the cast, but let's talk about some other non-spoilery things. And the cinematography in this film was a very big standout, obviously, and we all saw this coming because the Black Panther, Wakanda, and the city in Wakanda in Africa was brought so wonderfully back into this film, and also a nice little underwater location.
Oh yeah, Kotukan.
Tucson, not Atlantis.
Not Atlantis, because that's the other studio.
Yeah, that's the other studio. We don't own that franchise.
We don't own that franchise.
But yeah, again, I was impressed with the underwater stuff.
I loved it. And there's, especially coming from what is coming from the comics, because it is originally in the comics supposed to be Atlantis that Namor rules over. But honestly, you don't need it to be Atlantis to be a really cool underwater city.
I agree.
Kotukan does such an amazing job at taking Mayan culture and bringing it with a new modern flair, and it really feels like that these people have been living and thriving as a culture and wonderful for an entire time, and have been able to remain hidden because of how deep they are and how secluded they are. So I thought the cinematography of taking that and being able to have that juxtaposition of the underwater versus the above world, and as well just all the colors that they bring in for Wakanda, all the kind of muted tones of the regular outside of Wakanda world. It's just really well done, so I have to give credit where credit's due. I do think the original Black Panther had a little bit better cinematography, in my own personal opinion, but this one is also a very big standout for cinematography.
And the cinematography, I feel, kind of segues into the music aspect of it, because you can't really... I mean, cinematography is good and all, but when you have great music behind it, and the music by Ludwig van Gorison, I think, what
of Mandalorian fame.
I'm going to say, again, Oscar-worthy again, because he brought this underwater feel to the music of the underwater city, and also, of course, brought back great Wakanda elements. And he also had a nice theme going on through the entire film of the death of T'Challa that just brought this emotional weight to the film that the first one didn't really have. But this one obviously needed it, and it was brought...
It was scored
incredibly.
Wonderfully.
Yes.
Yeah. Another thing that that you mentioned a little bit earlier in the podcast was the runtime. Now the runtime clocks in at 2 hours and 41 minutes. You said that it did kind of need a little bit of trimming, and I think it could have used maybe a little bit of trimming. There were some elements that I feel they were executed well, but really weren't needed as much. They were the things that I'm thinking of were world building. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, for sure.
But it just this is very weird for me to say this, but this is the one film that I feel like I didn't really need to feel the rest of the MCU for.
Yeah, I agree.
Focusing on Wakanda and Kotukan, I feel like were the biggest strengths of this film, and whenever it tried to branch out with the rest of the MCU, that's where it kind of started to falter a little bit. So if they would have focused on that, I think they could have done a little bit better and shaved down that runtime a little bit more.
All right, we got one more thing. And obviously, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. And how is the weight of Chadwick Boseman's passing in this film? And you feel it immediately in this film. And you feel it throughout the entirety of the film. It's not like it's mentioned in every scene, but you just feel it in every actor's performances. You feel it in the city of Wakanda. You also feel it in kind of that world building scenes that I picked up on. You feel it in, like, I know you see Martin Freeman in this film. You see a certain somebody that is a spoiler, so I'm not going to say. You see that character's reaction. And you just feel this emotional weight that just, it's immediately you feel it, like your heart sinks. From the first shot.
Well, and that's the thing. It feels like almost the death of T'Challa and Chadwick Boseman is how each of these characters pretty much relate to each other. There's not at all one point where each of the characters get to interact and talk about that. It is always brought up, and always in such a wonderful way, and each character has their own insight into it. And different insight into it, which I always thought was really, really wonderful. And it, like you said, it's just the elephant in the room. You just can't avoid not talking about T'Challa in a Black Panther movie. So how they handled it, how each character went through their own grieving process, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's a wonderful message, and I thought they did a really wonderful job of spanning that all out and yet relating it back to Chadwick's life and legacy of the Black Panther.
Yeah, so that's our non-spoilery section done. So now it's review time. Zach?
Yeah.
Would you please tell the audience, who are young, new, and old at heart, how we split up our review section?
Yeah, so if you are new for our channel, well, welcome, my friends, again. But we do have a little bit of a different system when it comes to actually reviewing our films. We have 3 categories that we like to usually stick to. It's Eat It Up, which means that we highly enjoyed the film. We highly recommend that you see it in theaters if you can. But if you have to wait for streaming, we do understand. But we definitely recommend the theater experience here on this podcast.
I don't understand why you would wait, Zach.
I don't understand either, but if you have to, you have to. The second one is Cook a Little More, where we feel like it was okay, but it needed maybe a director change, a script change, a change in actor, something that would have changed to help kick it up into that Eat It Up category. And then we have our final category, which is Feed It to the Dog, where we did not care for the film. You should still go see it to form your own opinion, but in terms of our stamp of approval, it would not receive.
Okay. So, Zach, since this is your number 6,
Yes.
would you like to give your honest review of this film/meal?
So there's a lot going on in this movie. There's a lot going for it. There was a lot of excitement coming in for it. I'm not gonna lie. And I can't believe I'm actually giving it this rating. I thought I was gonna go in just to eat it up, but to me, this film is a clean plate. It is clean plates are a phantom category that we put it above a lot of films, and I don't usually like to use this this category a lot, but there was so many wonderful things. Even the stuff like that, like I said, how before the world building MCU stuff wasn't as powerful, it still was really good and wonderful. So I really couldn't find anything that I could really not dig into, and we didn't even really touch on Namor, which we'll touch a little bit later. I flat out love Namor's introduction and his character, and I'm looking forward to see what else he's going to do in the MCU. So overall, clean plate for me. Really wonderful piece of going back to Chadwick and T'Challa's legacy. Phenomenal work by everyone in the cast and by Ryan Coogler.
So the first film for me was a definite clean plate. That I will agree with.
Sure.
This one, I feel if I don't give it a clean plate, it would be a disrespect.
Sure.
So I also am going to give it a clean plate. However, there's still a few flaws, such as the runtime and the world building, which I agree it didn't hurt the story. I just feel like the film would have been so much better if it would just been condensed into this Wakanda story and dealing with the aftermath of T'Challa's death. And I also have to point out, if it wasn't for the underwater sections, this film would have just been an Eat It Up for me. So I will agree it's a clean plate for me, but it still
has caveats.
I still see a few crumbs.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
Not every film can be perfect.
No.
But
They try.
they try. And so thank you, my friends, for joining us here on our 50th episode here on Excellent Little Podcast. We thank you so much for sticking with us this long. Welcome to our new YouTube family that has been joining us as well. If we would love to hear your feedback on not only the channel, but what did you think of Black Panther Wakanda Forever? We'd love to hear your thoughts by emailing us at elpodcastmz@gmail.com, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Now, before we enter the next section, don't forget to drop us one of these, leave us a comment, but it's time.
And subscribe.
But it's time, my friends, to let me sound the alarm. Wakanda forever. Ibombe!
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 Ibombe! All right,
Wakanda
my friends.
forever! It's the alarm.
We are officially into our spoiler section. So once again, my friends, if you do not want to be spoiled on this film, now is the time to go, and we thank you so much. But let's go ahead and jump straight into it with the beginning of how this film started with T'Challa's death.
Yeah, so he dies from an unknown illness, and Shuri tries to save him from a replica of the
herb shaped herb from
the first
vibranium,
one, but
yes.
that Killmonger burned, which we'll get to that in a minute. But she tries to save him, and a lot of people are saying you need to be by his side because he's gonna die.
Yeah.
It also kind of shows like the weight of, a lot of these actors didn't know Chadwick was sick.
Yeah.
So I also felt that this was Ryan Coogler kind of telling the shock of it. Like, I feel Shuri, like, on that day was like, oh, wow, he's sick. He's sick. He's going to die. I need to fix it. I don't have time. Where I feel like that was a lot of, like, Ryan Coogler's reaction, because there was an article that came out that Ryan Coogler came with the Black Panther script to Chadwick Boseman's house, and Chadwick was like, I'm not going to make this film. I'm too sick.
Yep.
And that's was also kind of a mirror image of Ryan Coogler's reaction, was Shuri's reaction to T'Challa's death, and it kind of makes you think, like, T'Challa was blipped.
Yep.
Do you feel like this could have been an effect of the blip? Because remember what happened to Jane Foster too. So I feel like the blip may have had something to do with it.
It is definitely possible. It's just it's just a great way how life influences art, and art reflects real life. And I feel like they just did such a wonderful job of honoring Chad in incorporating not how secretive he was, but how much he wanted to keep this on the down low, so that when it officially came out, everyone was shocked and everyone tried to do their best to help, but it was at that point too late.
Yeah, and I also feel he talked to Coogler like, look, I'm not going to be able to make this film, but I can help you make it to where it can carry on the legacy, and also bring something to the table that not just helps Black Panther, but also helps the MCU. Yeah. And I'm sure he talked to Kevin Feige about it too. But yeah, just bravo with dealing with this very unfortunate and sad premise.
Yeah.
But somebody else dies in this film.
Yeah. Queen Ramonda also dies in this film. And it is also an extremely powerful death. Really wonderfully played by Angela Bassett. I thought that her death was a very nice launching point for Shuri to move on in her story, as the same way how T'Challa's father T'Chaka had to die in order for T'Challa to move his story forward. It was a nice mirror and a nice kind of, as George Lucas likes to say, it's poetry. It always rhymes. So I thought it was a nice little rhyming effect that Shuri's character had to go through as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it was very, very well put together, and I'm actually kind of, I don't want to say glad, but
never, because losing Angela Bassett is
but
loss.
That it was Namor that did it, because it actually brought the rage that Shuri had been feeling all the way back. Because the film is a year after T'Challa's death. There is a time jump, so I think that puts us in the MCU in 2025, 2026?
Yeah.
It's 2025, 2026.
Yep.
Getting to that Logan era, I think. But yeah, you just see this rage in her after Namor kills her. Yeah. And I'm just like, now she has to do something, because a lot of people, because she was told to do something that can we talk about it now?
Yep.
Shuri's the new Black Panther.
She is our new Black Panther.
We saw it coming.
Yeah. I think she was the obvious choice.
Yeah.
And, I mean, who else really?
Nobody else.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. There are other characters that could take up the mantle, but Shuri's the one that should have from the beginning, and she is the right choice. And Letitia Wright does a phenomenal job portraying her own Black Panther, and does a really wonderful job to stand out as herself and make it unique, even down to her fight style and everything. It's really, really wonderful.
So I want to segue into how she became the Black Panther. So after Queen Ramonda dies. She finally finds a way to perfect the herb.
Yep.
Through T'Challa's DNA.
Yep.
And
well,
she's
not just through T'Challa's DNA, but through a bracelet
that's right.
because Namor gives Shuri a token of Kotukan in his mother's bracelet, which is imbued with vibranium.
That's right.
So having a plant-based version of vibranium and with T'Challa's own DNA, she is able to make a synthetic heart-shaped herb.
And she does the ritual, and when she wakes up, she sees Killmonger.
Not Queen Ramonda.
Or T'Challa.
Or T'Challa.
Or T'Chaka.
Or T'Chaka.
She sees Killmonger. And you actually kind of see, you find out really why. It's because she's got a nasty rage inside of her. And so I think that kind of makes sense why she saw Killmonger. And because Killmonger, even though he was a bad guy, he had this rage in him that was understandable, if that makes sense.
You understood what motivated him
Yes.
and why he was angry. His motives, like what he was doing, was maybe not the best. But the fact why he was doing it all did make sense. So, and it's a really interesting character development to see that how close Shuri and him are at this moment in time. It makes total sense. It's really wonderful insight into Shuri's character. And you just see, like how you said, just this rage coming from her. And it's so interesting to see.
Yeah.
But one thing that I have to talk about that we couldn't really talk about in the non-spoiler section because just how involved he is in the story and how much it could be spoilers is Namor.
Or Namor, as the way he's pronounced.
They keep on flipping between Namor and Namor, but it is extremely wonderful to see this character come into the MCU because it's been rumored for a while that he's been coming even earlier into the MCU, but to finally have him.
Originally, he was owned by Universal.
Correct, and we did buy the rights for him back in 2012, 2013, I think.
I think it was another contract dispute, I think.
Yeah, but we finally did get him back, and to have Tena Huerta play him was such a wonderful casting.
Well, not just him, but the fact that it was a Latino actor from Mexican descent.
Yep.
That is so important going forward for the MCU because now you have African Americans in Black Panther and Wakanda and Black Panther, and now you have this, which opens up Mexican American actors and Latino American actors, which is beautiful.
Well, and that's the thing. I really genuinely enjoyed this character. I could see, similar to Killmonger, I could see where he was coming from. He's trying to protect his nation. He wants them to remain secret and doesn't want outside forces to be hurting him, but he understands in Wakanda coming out as a leading nation with vibranium, they're gonna mine for it and look for it in any way, shape, or form they can. And Kotukan has a lot of vibranium.
Oh yes, a lot, even more than Wakanda.
Possibly, it is possible, and we just he realizes the potential danger of it. So the fact that he's going for this and is very relatable and very understood. I'm just so happy that when the final fight came down to it, that now Killmonger, it made sense why he had to die. However, I'm still mad that he did die because he's one of our best villains. I'm happy they learned from that mistake and kept Namor because he can grow. He can continue to grow because he is what Black Adam kind of failed to do. Of the morally gray character, you might not necessarily agree with him, but you understand where he's coming from. And he is always a wild card whenever he comes into a story. You never know which way Namor is going to go, if he's going to be an anti-hero or an antagonist. And that line is so well blurred in Wakanda Forever that I continually will look forward to whenever he comes back into the MCU.
Well, it also opens up just so many different underwater stories that who knows what's been going on in the MCU in the years prior to this film. That we haven't seen anything, and also opens up the chemistry and the future relationships that's going to set up with like future MCU characters, such as maybe him and Shuri end up having a better friendship / relationship going forward. It's possible. I know it's very difficult. I know he becomes a little closer with some of the Fantastic Four characters.
Yep.
The Illuminati. I
Yep.
know that may not happen, but some X-Men characters. He did call himself a mutant.
He did. It is the first cinematic
Of the films.
of the first cinematic reference of the mutants. And I'm happy they officially confirmed that he is a mutant,
Yeah.
which is perfect.
Yes, so he does live, so that helps. But at the end, Shuri is Black Panther, but she doesn't take the throne.
No, she succeeds the throne and makes way for M'Baku to take the throne. Which
I'm
it's
for that. Yeah,
it's so funny how at the beginning of Black Panther, the first one, we were so against M'Baku taking the throne. To now we're at the end of Wakanda Forever, and we're like, yeah, M'Baku, it's your time to shine, buddy.
Which I think he ends up. I don't know if he's in the. I need to read those comic books, but I think he becomes the king of Wakanda while T'Challa is in that coma. I think.
I don't believe so, but
we will check on that and get back to you.
I do. It's very cool to see Winston Duke always as M'Baku. I love the character. So the fact that he's going to be able to bring the old world culture of the Jabari into Wakanda's very tech savvy life, it's gonna lead to a very interesting blend and an interesting rule of Wakanda going forward. But
now
speaking of going forward,
this is the mid-credit scene. It's only a mid-credit scene. There's no post-credit.
No post-credit,
just
just mid-credit. They did something that I thought was the smartest thing you could ever do. Ever. That, to be honest, I didn't think of, but was so smart. T'Challa definitely left his legacy in more ways than one. He has a son. And
he was born before the blip, I think. Or she was pregnant with him before the blip.
No, I think yes, I think you're right. You're right.
Because it's kind of hard to have a kid during a blip.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
I thought it was either just after, but you're right.
He was either born just after the blip. What are you thinking? Like dust happened?
Well, no, like just after the blip comes back. Like after the 5
I think
years.
the blip was only because I think this is only 2 years.
Yeah,
and the
I think
son's
you're
about
right.
7. I
like
think
6 or 7. Yeah.
So she was either pregnant or had just had the son, and the
Yeah.
character's name is I'm blanking. Hold on, let me double check on IMDb. What is your name? Nakia. Yeah, that's right. T'Challa and Nakia have a son. Either
T'Challa the second.
T'Challa the second, and I'm just gonna say it. She had him before the blip.
Yeah,
I think he probably 6 months to a year old. Probably they go to Haiti, and T'Challa knew he was sick, so he would visit them periodically.
Yeah.
And before he died, he said, I'm going to die. I don't want him to take the throne until he gets older.
Yeah.
Stay away from Wakanda.
Yep.
But he prepared him for, like, once you get older, you're probably going to have to take over the Black Panther mantle and the king of Wakanda. So, yeah, this sets up loads of future stories.
Well, and also, what it also does, too, yes, the Black Panther is a mantle.
Yes.
Meant to be passed on between multiple characters. But it also, with now T'Challa the second becoming a character, it leads us to have T'Challa back as the Black Panther.
That's
so
correct.
I am extremely excited and look forward to our king rising again. But that
long live the king.
But that is going to be our review. So
Thank you so much for watching and listening wherever you are, whatever you do, whoever you are. But thank you all so much. Don't forget to drop us one of these, give us a comment, subscribe, email us at elpodcastmz@gmail.com. Until that time, my friend.
I'm Zach.
I'm Mitch.
And we are an excellent little podcast.